before that they couldn't put in like as this boat did, because it wasn't deep enough even for the sailing boats. So because the shore was all the way back here, right in front of that house there. So that the original shore, that's called Cadman's Cottage. That's the people that used to rowboat across to the North Shore used to live, and the boat would just moor straight outside there. So where we're standing was water. Back in 1790s, hitting the 19th century, but then semicircular quay was built and brought the edge out to this railing. That was actually designed by the architect Mortimer Lewis with the engineer George Barney, who was a military engineer who was out here to build things for the British Army. And George Barney actually, plus hundreds of convicts, built semicircular quay. And then they had an inquiry in 1908 where they decided to bring a railway across here. And that was finally completed in 1956. So it took, about 40 years to realise that railway and the underground railway. And then when they built that across, it came out into where the water was, so they could no longer have semicircular quay, so it was square, the whole of the circular quay was squared off. Then this was a long walk that went all the way from here, all the way up to where we're going, which originally was called King's Wharf, or even before that it was called Hospital Wharf, because the hospital was over here. Lots of people had smallpox and all sorts of things they picked up sailing to Australia. So it was Hospital Wharf and King's Wharf. Then they decided, when there were many immigrants coming to Australia from Europe, to build a major overseas passenger terminal here, which was completed in 1962. And it was designed by the Maritime Services Board architect and design office, who also designed this building here. This was the headquarters of the people that ran the harbour. They were called the Maritime Services Board. And this was their main number one wharf. Even though there were already wharves in Darling Harbour and wharves in Woolloomooloo, this was the most important passenger terminal. They were for cargo. Gradually the cargo moved out of Circular Quay and to Woolloomooloo and this was left only for passenger ships. So the passenger ships, as they have, for more than 200 years, come right into the centre of Sydney. So this was opened in 1962. For big passenger ships that would bring a couple of thousand immigrants from Britain and from Italy and from Spain, some from Germany, some from Eastern Europe, all came here on these big ships from Europe through the Suez Canal. Then, as aeroplanes took over, it's very big came all the way through. One-third off of this terminal to become a cruise terminal. A terminal is different than a straight passenger terminal. Passenger terminals needed lots of luggage coming on and off. They needed all sorts of things supplied because they were also full going back. And most of the cruise people come here, go off and buy a lot of boomerangs and then get back to the ship. And so they don't have big cargo, big luggage. And also because they were coming into Australia, they had much more, they had stricter custom. For instance, they all had to have a healthy check before they could come ashore and so. So in 19 decided to change all that, and my practice was appointed by the government to redo this into a rooster. And at the same time, the whole of Circular Quay was being improved. This paving where you can walk around all the way to the opera and walk on the edge. At the other end I'll show you the toilet blocks and other things right on the water. This was a working port up till 1984, and no one cared about people arriving in Sydney or enjoying the Circular Quay or seeing the Opera House or so on. So we designed this with a square, and as you see it working now, the ship is square, and otherwise it's open. And those gates are all open, and you can walk along the edge of the wharf along there, and at the end. Sometimes for reasons that I'm not clear about, they have that open, sometimes they have it closed. I think it must be depending on whether they've got paid someone to open or close it. Anyway, so you can look. Our aim is to have a building that you can see without signs everywhere you want it to. We've arrived because all the engine costs at the high level and all the cargo worked at the low level. Clear separation of circulation, and we wanted to mix all the visitors with that, because there are lots of visitors who people still get on cruise ships here, so they still have streamers and people still want to say goodbye to the ship, so we treated that deck all the way along on the edge where people can hold streamers and wave goodbye to their friends on the ship and so on. And the building originally was completely covered in wheat-pits. To all wheat-pits all, but actually found this quite elegant frame. So this piece here added on was not done by me, that was done by the Public Works Department. We did a bit of documentation on that.